Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Thursday, September 29th, 2016. My name is Rich, and joining me this week is Bijan. How are you making out?
I'm good, man. I hate to start this off in a sad note, but just a few hours ago, an unarmed African-American was shot just literally a block away from my apartment. So my heart goes out to the family and everything. I really hope everybody's okay. He's in critical condition, but hopefully he makes it through. I really hope I don't know this person. But my best friend's in law enforcement. I have many people in law enforcement. It's a really tough situation. I really hope everybody in America figures everything out, because I don't know. This happens too often. But I'll keep it at that,
Yeah. It would be nice if we had a more serious podcast at times that we could go into some of these deeper issues. Maybe that'll be something we can do someday. But my heart goes out to the family. That's awful. Mm-hmm. On a lighter note, you may have heard me hiccuping a little bit through that whole ordeal. So I'll probably keep them in here or there. So you might hear me screw up a little bit. I'm a little bit under the weather, but we're going to push through because there's an important thing to cover, and that is the American Ninja Warrior Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. Very,
very important, Rich. Get hyped. Actually, don't, because it's a friggin' hot mess.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. So we watched Episodes 1 and 2, and we're going to review them. Definitely not in the detail that we normally do.
Nope.
But we'll go over them kind of high level, let you know if it's worth going back to watch them or not. Spoiler alert, not really. But no. Maybe the rest of the season will be interesting. It sounds like it might be.
It's something. Anybody that's watched Season 2 knows when I say the reality show, they know what I'm talking about. Oh boy, you're about to see the growing pains of this show, and it's amazing that it's gone to this point. But yeah, it's going to be some cool stuff. Just to remind everybody, we are very much just going to go broad strokes, because you do not want the nitty-gritty of everything that happens on this show. With that said, right off the bat, man, I have to ask, what do you think about the new hosts of the show? Because there was one highlight of it.
Yeah, I was like, Matt Eisman. That was one of the first notes I took. I was like, oh my God, Matt's back. Well, not back, but this is his original appearance, and really solid right off the bat. I can see why he's stuck around. Like he's in full form right off the bat. I enjoy listening. It made it a lot smoother, I felt.
Man, I have to tell you, he really stood out. He was so good, especially compared to last season. Like, for anybody who remembers, the first season of American Ninja Warrior was really, really rough with their announcers. They're incredibly monotone. They just didn't seem excited at all about anything that was happening. Matt Eisman really brought a lot of really good play-by-play, but genuine interest in the sport, which was really cool. I have to say, the co-host of it, Jimmy Smith, he wasn't bad, right? But he definitely wasn't good either. He definitely wasn't an Akbar, and he didn't kind of provide the cohesion that you need with somebody like Matt Eisman. It was kind of just like Matt Eisman doled down to like 2. So I understand why Jimmy Smith went away, but I will say even Jimmy Smith was still better than the first season.
Yeah, he was pretty good. I didn't have too much problem with him, but I think you're right. I think you need a counterpoint, and it just felt like they were kind of just two buddies watching the whole thing. And if you're going to pick between them, you definitely would pick Matt to stick around.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what just overall from the first 2 episodes, what really, really stood out to you?
I think the costume competitors was one of the biggest things, that they definitely had more of them. Way more silly, way more expectation, I think, for them to fall pretty quickly. Just a more Sasuke feel to the whole thing from what I've seen of Sasuke this past season.
Yeah, so it definitely was more of a throwback. And not just that, just in general, there was so much emphasis on Sasuke. Like when we talk about current seasons of American Ninja Warrior, you really, really have to look for any any correlations to Sasuke, right? Like, they really just try to make ANW its own thing, which is all right. But it's nice to have some callbacks to the original show. It is the American Ninja Warrior, and Ninja Warrior is Sasuke. So it's nice for them to just, kind of put Makoto Nagano on a high pedestal. He's doing autographs and stuff. And just at the very beginning, all they do is have this big vignette about Sasuke, or Ninja Warrior, how they say it, and all that. And I appreciated that. I
noticed that too.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I definitely noticed it. I even noticed that the logo used to be very Japanese inspired, and now it's definitely more American. I don't know if it was intended as any kind of disrespect, and I think that's the vibe that a lot of people have gotten over the years. My guess would be that it was a combination of trying to, back then it was all about getting to Mount Midoriyama in Japan. Getting to Japan was the end goal. So, of course, you're going to hype up Midoriyama and Sasuke because that's where you're going. That's the ultimate challenge that they're going to face. So they talk about it as much as they would talk about Vegas now, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's just because the locations moved. Maybe, I'm sure it's not just that, and I'm sure there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that I'm not aware of, but to my mind, you have an end goal and you need to hype that goal. So with it being Vegas now, I get why they would do that.
Yeah. Perfect explanation. And I completely agree. I just found it quite interesting. Another thing that really stood out to me was just the easiness of the course. I mean, literally, I've done every single obstacle on this course other than the Bridge of Blades, which I'm down to do anytime if anybody has one available in Southern California. But yeah, this is one of those courses where I just look at it and I'm like, I can do that without any training. With training, I shouldn't say that. Without being in full tip-top shape is a better explanation. With that said, that wasn't really the emphasis of the show at the time, right? As you said, it was a costume competitors. It was more of a goofy, fun, wacky show, and it got more serious in later seasons.
I guess another point to that, too, is time was more of a factor then, right? It wasn't just a matter of completing the course. If you complete the qualifier, now you move on to city finals. Back then, it was all about getting in that top 30, so you had to get a fast time. So I think that led to me, it was basically like running half of the Team Ninja Warrior course, right? It's all about speed, and it's not a difficult course. You've got to get through it quickly, but without a second competitor there, it's definitely not as entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we just talk about some competitors?
Just to catch up a couple people that might not be aware. So back then, the prize at the end was $250,000. What they were doing at first is breaking them down to a top 30 that move on to the next round. And then there'll be 15 semifinalists that go to boot camp. And then there's 10 finalists that'll end up going to Japan in the end, because there was no Mount Midoriyama in Vegas, as we kind of hinted to earlier.
Mm-hmm. You sound like death, dude.
I know. Okay, so looking at the course, right off the bat, we had the quad steps, the rope swing, which is basically just a rope that you literally swing over to the other side.
It's so sadly easy. It's painful.
It's painful that so many people fell on those first two obstacles, too. And then the Bridge of Blades, which did seem to be challenging. Spider jump, which, it's like a really...
It is not the spider jump we know. There's no gap or anything, guys. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not the jumping spider. It's basically you take away the gap and don't have to even go up an incline or anything. Then the jumping bars, which is kind of like a shortened version of the triple jump I think we saw in Vegas last year.
It's monkey bars, just more separated. That's all it is. I mean,
it is
Brent Stevenson just swung from one to the other. It's monkey bars.
Yeah.
Do not try to make these sound cooler than they are, bro. These are ridiculously easy.
I'm trying to have a little respect because, it would still be difficult for me. I'm sure I can make it through it, but I wouldn't be as intimidated by this course. Let's just say that. And then the warped wall, the old school 14-foot warped wall. One thing right off the bat is, what the heck? Why is the water dirty? That's disgusting.
It's not disgusting. They just put, food coloring, whatever, they just colored it a different way just to, I don't know. Maybe somebody thought it was cool.
I mean, really,
I know in older Sasuke the mud was or the water was muddy, so maybe it's a throwback to that.
I guess disgusting's too strong a word, but it's kind of gross. Like, why wouldn't you have clean water? I mean, we don't need dirty water there to make it an obstacle of some kind.
Yeah, I think they're going for the wipeout. MXC, I think that's what it was called. More of the goofy aspect of obstacle course racing. You guys have to remember, back in these days, obstacle course race shows were much more of the goofy fun aspect. It really wasn't serious about finishing the course.
Yeah, I have to say, though, that the quality of the course seemed much improved from last season. From season 1, it actually looked like a solid, well-built course.
Yeah, because they actually had people that knew what they were doing and put, like, the G4 actually put some money into the show. Yeah. The
steps were actually out of the water this time. That was a nice improvement.
Don't get me started, man. So, yeah, in terms of names, though, we definitely saw some names that were very familiar. And I'm curious to hear, Rich, your thoughts about some of these competitors, the first time seeing them and everything. We had, just to run over some off the top of my head, we had Brett Sims, who's been there every season, so we saw him last year, but he was definitely there again. Looking super young. Oh, man, it was kind of weird to see. Brian Orozco, Paul Darnell, Brent Stephenson, his first time on the course, and wow, he was so good back then. David Campbell, the G, and or the OG, I should say. Ryan Stratus, rocking the military thing, and that was his big thing back then. He's kind of now the Sasuke diehard, but back then he was definitely the Army diehard. And Travis Rosen, Levi Muenberg. What'd you think?
It was cool. They all show why they've been around for so long. A lot of them were really solid right off the bat, and really stood out in these field of people that were really, really struggling at times.
Yeah, for me, it was so weird sometimes seeing these guys look so incredibly young. Two in particular was Ryan Stratus and Travis Rosen. Oh boy, did, like, the other guys you could see, they kind of look the same. These guys look completely different. I am like, whoa, you look young.
Ryan without the beard, literally shaves a lot of years off of him. Mm-hmm. I didn't really find Travis that different, honestly.
I don't know. Maybe it's for me, but he looked definitely a lot younger. But one thing that definitely stood out also is David Campbell looks exactly the same. Weird.
Except he's got the sunglasses and no shirt. He doesn't have his baseball tee on, or whatever you call it. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, so I want to talk about a couple of the costume competitors before we kind of run down some of these runs for the other guys. Frog Dude, guys,
that was his name too, right? Like they
literally called him Frog Dude.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, quite a difference. I mean, you have some, Captain NBC is the main holdout, but you have a few people that bill themselves as the whatever ninja. But not like Frog Dude and...
What about Green Man?
Green Man,
come on,
exactly.
Representing.
Jeez.
All the people that love green.
Falls on the quad steps, these guys, like, come on.
Yeah, of course they fall on the quad steps. These are just... It's supposed to be funny. I'm pretty sure producers or, people with a checkoff list, they understand they're trying to make a goofy, fun show. I understand why they're here. That said, it's a different philosophy of how the show was made back then. So the show definitely gets a lot more serious. I'd say around season 4, if I remember correctly. So just these are the growing pains. I'm just glad the show survived till then. Hopefully, I really don't have much faith in them, but hopefully the Spartan Race show, gets their act together, learns some things.
Team Ninja Warrior, maybe we'll see kind of a similar progression where it was really solid the first year, maybe it'll even be better this year.
That's much more hopeful, yeah. Team Ninja Warrior has a shot.
I did appreciate that the crowd noise was not amped up. It seemed to be pretty accurate to what was actually going on. Like, it was a little quiet at times, but you could still hear people. It basically sounded like I remember it being when we were in Philly. It's a lot of excitement, but not the crazy, like it's a football stadium at times. Mm-hmm. Oh, one competitor that I wasn't expecting to see there was Grandpa Ninja. I forgot he had been around that long.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. He was good stuff.
But he ended up going out on the rope swing. It was like, okay, we get to see Grandpa crush it. Nope, he went out on the rope. Mm-hmm. Oh, and this is the season when Brian Orozco actually grew out his mustache. He grew it out for some flair.
Oh, that thing is synonymous with him now, yeah. So this was the beginning of it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of miss Brian Orozco. I wasn't a big fan of him back then because... I don't know. I was just so much of a diehard fan of Levi Muhlenberg and David Campbell back then. Maybe some bias on my side, but I miss the guy so much. I miss that mustache and everything. Yeah, speaking of Brian Orozco and everything, also, I hope you realize or took notice of just how much of an emphasis they had on free running. Throughout these past 2 episodes, all we saw was free runner after free runner make it, and how much big of a deal it was when they say, "Oh, this guy trains free running." It's like, "Oh, better keep an eye on this guy. They're gonna go all the way, right?" This show was very free running heavy.
Yeah, well, I mean, what would a rock climber? There would be no advantage to being a rock climber on that course. There's so little upper body intensive obstacles that it is definitely designed for free running, basically.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting contrast for now. And maybe that's why we don't see some of these people still around. I don't know what the story is behind Brian Orozco and Levi leaving and not coming back, despite being at the top of the game back then.
Mm-hmm. So, any other notes that you want, or should we go on?
Man, we're jumping around all over the place, but I have to go back to the hosting again. I thought Allison, who I didn't really care for in season 1, actually was a great sideline reporter this time.
Oh, yeah, Allison Hayslip. Yeah, she definitely, she's one of the people that probably paid attention to the first season and noticed some of her flaws and improved from there.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised because I know there's a lot of fans that really liked her, and I was kind of disappointed in season 1, but season 2, she seems much better.
Oh, yeah. And she's gone on to host a lot of other shows, and she's very talented.
One guy I had to look up because I'm like, I know that guy. There was 3 people there from Tampa, and one of the tall guys, Sean Morris. I kept looking at him and I know that guy. How do I know him? And then I realized he's the headphone guy. In later seasons, he always wears headphones when he runs the course.
No idea who you're talking about, but okay.
Really? You don't remember the guy that wears the headphone? Anyway, he runs in headphones. But I love this. The quote, he said, "Don't tell Super 8 there are 3 of us in a 2-person room." It's a shout out to Wyndham. Shout out to my company. It was awesome.
You guys hear that? That's going right over my head.
Super 8. I support Super 8s. They're awesome.
I know what a Super 8 is, so at least got that.
And I guess one last thing we should probably mention is the number of injuries, the number of bloody wounds that we saw in the 2 episodes. Like, it wasn't a staggering amount, but it's certainly unusual to see people coming off the course with blood gushing out of their forehead and off their hands.
Yeah, and it's weird because this course is really tame compared to the others. But,
Yeah.
Honestly, it very much will depend on how well the obstacles are built, right? Because we don't know what kind of metal is protruding from these obstacles. And it seems as though they're injuring themselves on 2 particular obstacles, especially the Bridge of Blades at the very end, where they just had one mat. And if you look closely, there are 2 conjoining metal pipes right past this pad that falls off very easily. So somebody could easily hit themselves on that. And I think that might have been what happened. I didn't look closely enough at when they were injured what happened, but I have a feeling it was course design that it caused all these things.
Yeah, I think so, because we've seen some pretty nasty spills on the newer seasons, and they tend to be okay, right? They just have more padding in all the right places, I guess, to avoid
on
that.
Much more complicated obstacles.
Yeah. Not that there's not injuries. It's just weird to have bloody injuries, I guess, is something I don't normally see.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it. We're not going to drag this out too long. Like I said, we're not going to go over every competitor. There were some strong women, but I haven't seen any familiar faces. I think we don't really get that until the later seasons. So
yeah, not too many, but it is still nice to see some of the top people in the game from so many years get kind of their start in the season. It was nice to see.
Yeah, and we'll get to see more. We'll keep covering the season, and we'll let you know if it improves. It takes a weird turn at some point by the sounds of it. And we'll see if it's worth watching or not.
Don't have high hopes, guys. Do not have high hopes.
Yeah. I guarantee if you start watching it and you aren't committed to watching it all, you will be skipping ahead here and there because it gets very repetitive.
Although I will say it's going to be a fun hate watch. The show takes, or this particular season takes quite a drastic turn in the middle part, which we'll be covering, and we'll just be covering the highlights. But I think it'll be a fun, interesting listen for all of you guys wanting to know some of the growing pains of this show. And I am so incredibly curious to hear Rich's thoughts of the upcoming reality show aspect of the show. Oh boy.
Cool. All right, so moving on, we're going to do our video of the week. And this week, rather than we always do, I mean, obviously we usually do obstacle course stuff, but something a little different this week because Jesse Graff put out a music video, which, I mean, how many different mediums does this girl want to crush? Like, it's just crazy that now she has a music video out. She wrote a song back in season 7 as she was getting ready to do her qualifying run in Venice. When she just had an excess of energy. I'm kind of quoting from the ANW Nation site there, but basically to get past her jitters, she wrote a song, and then she's been looking for somebody that would have the range to sing it, and she got Megan Murphy to sing it, and she does a fantastic job. So it's Jesse that's kind of lip syncing along in the video, but it's Megan that does the singing. We'll link in the show notes. You should check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, great musical. Fun times. Don't have much to say, guys, but but interesting lyrics.
Yeah. So it's kind of a cute little video that I want to share with everybody. So we'll link that out.
I think children will get a kick at it more than anything. So if you got kids, play the video for them.
All right. So again, another short episode this week. We're keeping it short for a couple reasons, mainly to spare my voice, unfortunately. But it is the off season. We'll be continuing our coverage of all things Ninja Warrior. It's been a quiet couple of weeks. We haven't had any National Ninja League action. Hopefully that'll kick up here soon. But we are going to start into our preparation for Team Ninja Warrior College Edition, the College Madness. Mm-hmm. So we'll start looking at the teams and the rivalries and try to get you as pumped for it as we are, right?
Yeah, it's cool that at least this show features... Like, we have the list of names and their backgrounds, and at least they're full athletes. So we aren't going to have a bunch of schmucks, just randomly doing it. We'll have some people. This will be a higher level competition, so I'm interested in that. But also, these are a lot of people that have never done any of these courses ever. So I'm really interested to see from the perspective of a bunch of people completely new to this type of sport or this type of thing, how well they do. I think we're going to get a whole lot more people failing halfway through the course, and that might make some good television. It might create some good drama, right, Rich? So I'm curious about that, and the rivalries can be fun. It all depends on how this show is filmed. So look out. The show's starting on November 22nd, and we are definitely going to preview it in the upcoming weeks. So I don't know. It's going to be slow news cycle, but I think we're still going to have some fun. We are going to have a lot of fun hate watching these upcoming these first seasons of American Ninja Warrior. Stay tuned, guys. It's going to be good times.
And if you're preparing for Ninja Warrior and you need some climbing holds, why don't you try out Atomic Climbing Holds and go to our website, ninjapodcast.com, click on the link for Atomic, use our discount code podcast, and you can save yourself 10% off the purchase. And if you'd like to reach out to us, you can email me at rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as Ninja Podcast. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace and love, y'all.